Hello, good morning. Welcome to Joy News Interactive. But today the world is celebrating World Press Freedom Day, and we're going to cross over to the press center here in Accra as the Ghana Journalists Association's president, Afrel Muni, is speaking.
Media freedom, long live Ghana, and may the God of heaven bless us all.
Thank you very much, President of the GJA. Now we are virtually the verge of beginning the public lecture. But before we do that, we have the UNESCO Director General and resident representative just joining us. I want to say thank you very much for coming. Mr. Tiso dos Santos, thank you very much for coming. Now, next to him is the evangelists who prayed for us, who has become a permanent friend of the Ghana Journalists Association. We also have with us here the representative of the European Union. Indeed, he is the head of delegation of the European Union here in Ghana. Thank you very much for coming. We have the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, as well as the chairman, both of whom I've already introduced to you. Next to him is the Honorable Minister of Information, Honorable Mustafa Hamid, a very good friend of the media, a media practitioner himself. Next to him is the Deputy Majority Leader, Madame Adjo Safo, who is also an Honorable Minister. And then next to her is the Minority Leader in Parliament, Honorable Haruna Idrisu. Thank you very much. As the program proceeds, I'll find time to introduce the other dignitaries here with us. I don't want to use all the time during the introduction. So in next quarter, we will do that. So at this point, Mr. Dos Santos, it is your turn to deliver your speech on this very special day, which is very dear to you. Indeed, UNESCO has been the main sponsor of this event over the years. I want to say a big thank you to UNESCO. Please come to your seat.
Good morning. Always on these occasions, the words I say here are not mine, are the words of the organization written by its Director General, Madame Irina Bokova. So I quote, "Critical minds for critical times." This is the theme of the 2017 World Press Freedom Day. Only the independence, the character, the objectivity, and the good judgment of the journalist and the media can overcome the terrible storms of the new world that threaten freedom of information everywhere. Guillermo Cano Izaza, a Colombian journalist assassinated in 1986, wrote these words that I just quoted 2 years prior to his death, and they continue to resonate today, 33 years later, as we celebrate World Press Freedom Day and the 20th anniversary of the UNESCO Guillermo Cano World Press Freedom Prize. Facing a crisis of audience identity, journalism stands before a horizon where old challenges are merging with the new threats. The media business is being shaken to the core with the rise of digital networks and social media. Citizen journalists are redrawing the boundaries of journalism. Media accountability and credibility are falling under question. Online, the lines are blurring between advertising and editorial material, and we see private actors rising as key intermediaries, accompanied by new forms of private censorship. These challenges merge with deep transformations affecting societies. The Oxford Dictionary's Word of the Year for 2016 is post-truth. Combined with the concept of fake news, questions are rising that go the heart of free, independent, and professional journalism. All this comes at a time when free, independent, and pluralistic media has never been so important to empower individual women and men, strengthen good governance and the rule of law, and take forward the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, specifically Sustainable Development Goal 16, to build just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. The media must not only be a source of reliable information, it should provide a platform for a multitude of voices and mobilize new forces for tolerance and dialogue. The stakes are clear. We need original, critical, and well-researched journalism guided by high professional ethical standards and quality media education, combined with audiences that have the right media and information literacy skills. UNESCO is leading this work across the world, starting by standing up for the safety of journalists. Far too often, murder remains the most tragic form of censorship. 102 journalists paid the ultimate price only in 2016. This is unacceptable and weakens societies as a whole. This is why UNESCO is spearheading the UN Plan of Action on the safety of journalists and the issue of impunity with the partners around the globe. Critical times call for critical minds. Today, I call on everyone to sharpen their minds to defend the freedoms that are essential for justice and peace. This is UNESCO's message for the 2017 World Press Freedom Day. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your message. Now, when we move from this stage, we are going into the lecture. But before that, let me quickly do some introductions as well. We have represented here as well the two Deputy Ministers of Information, Honorable Perry Okujeto, thank you very much for coming, and Honorable Kojo Opong Nkrumah, thank you. Also with us here is Mr. Kwesi Agyeman, who is the President of GIBA. And GIBA, on this occasion, is the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association. I'm told there is another giver somewhere which represents Ghana Insurance Brokers Association. That's not that one on this occasion. We have with us here the Dean of the School of Information and Communications Studies, Professor Audrey Gajepo. Thank you very much for coming. And then we have Mr. Cyril de Graaf Johnson, who's representing Voltic and Accra Brewery, one of our sponsors over the years. Wherever we have had UNESCO supporting, Voltic has been there as well. Thank you very much. We also have with us here the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Dr. Kwame Akufu Anof Ntom, and the Managing Director of Graphic Group, Mr. Ken Ashigbe. Thank you very much for coming, Ambassador Haruna Atta. And let me quickly again say that we have...
Welcome back from the Press Center, where the Ghana Journalists Association is commemorating the World Press Freedom Day with a lecture. But back here in the studio, this is JNI, and are journalists really free? That's the question on the minds of many people who have heard of the acts of brutality visited on some journalists. As the world celebrates the World Press Freedom Day, we are asking what your assessment of the Ghanaian media is and what you think. Are journalists free from intimidation and pressure from the big wigs in society? We'll be back with your comments. Welcome back, and before we took the break, we were asking you what your assessment of journalists or the Ghanaian media is, and if you think that journalists are free from the intimidation and pressure from the bigwigs in society. So let's take your comments. And Prince Nuruddin Balmia says, kudos to journalists across the country as you mark the World Press Freedom Day. Your performance and assessments is highly recommended by the good people of Ghana. Following your news report, my advice to all media houses is that they should be circumspect in their reportage. And Billy says there is no difference between 80% of our journalists and politicians in Ghana. In terms of corruption, also, some of our journalists in Ghana don't follow the so-called breaking news to see the end result, making their works, you know, unfortunately, he used the word useless, and some of them also feel untouchable, so they say or do whatever they please. Typical example, you've named some examples here, but Eddie Beck says the Ghanaian media is simply awkward. They break news for breaking sake. The media is always an enemy to the government. How can we build a nation with this? Ghana media is destroying the country more than we realize. Know the level of people you're reporting to, and gradually we're turning enemies into ourselves. Okay, so we would have to go back to the press freedom, the lecture to commemorate the World Press Freedom Day at the Press Center, and we'll be back after that.
Would need to lay the bill before Parliament can work on it, but to encourage them and to motivate them and to help them bring to pass the President's vision of making us or encouraging us to be responsible citizens. I have these 8 points for Parliament, for the executive and Parliament as well. What does the right to information do for governance, or the benefits it will be for the government? Number one, a right to information law will build confidence in the executive. Why am I saying that? If the executive is giving us information proactively and even on demand, because there's certain information it will not be disclosed, you would have to ask for that information. And if it is given to you, it makes it easy to be confident in the kind of government that you have. Number two, it enhances the nation's credibility to development partners and investors. Obviously, if you're an investor, you would need some kind of information to push your investment. After all, it is not a secret that this particular government has private participation as one of the key tenets of ensuring that its obligations and its campaign promises are made? Does the investor have the right kind of information? How difficult or how easy is it for investors to get information? My third point, it strengthens the monitoring and evaluation of public sector performance. Once again, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, the president was talking about the way public sector functions and the fact that there's a lot to do to improve capacity. Well, if people are made responsible, they tend to work towards improving their capacity. So, an access to information law, if somebody knows that somebody is coming to request for a certain kind of information, obviously, you will build up yourself to be able to deliver. Number 4, an access to information law facilitates policy planning and development. For example, there's a policy that is coming out. You want to engage the citizenry. Yet, the citizenry are not well equipped to give you adequate information. The team says, critical minds for critical times. We are in critical times. Does the citizenry have that kind of information that will make him critical or that will make him be able to contribute meaningfully to what is happening around him? Number 5, reduce public tension and apprehension on national issues. I don't think I need to go into that. We have a very vibrant media. Some of the things that come out of the media is not really based on credible information. All kinds of things are being peddled around. And so I don't need to go into that. For Parliament, a good right to information law facilitates lawmaking. You must have the right kind of information to be able to do the kind of work that the electorate have elected you to go and do. You know, it's interesting. When the NDC was in government and the MPP was in the minority, there were so many complaints about lack of information to do the work. The tables are turned round, and we are hearing the same song. Why is that so? Very simple. They don't have information. And parliamentarians will confirm to you that they do not have information. Even if you go to a public office to request for the information, the bureaucracy alone will put you off. Number 7, it will aid parliamentarians perform their oversight roles properly. I will not go into that. I think that we all know the kind of work that parliamentarians do. And if they don't have adequate information, then they will fall short of that work. My final point, it will foster effective representation of constituents by parliamentarians. And on this issue, I would want to say that with the adequate kind of information, be able to engage your constituents better, and the constituents will be able to also engage you better because they know what is going around. It is based on these points that I'm saying that I do not know whether Parliament is in a dilemma or not. But if Parliament is in a dilemma, if the executive is in a dilemma, please just look at these 8 points and know that if you want your electorate to participate and you want your government to be accepted, then there's the need to pass a right to information law. And there's a need for a good access to information law. I want to say thank you to the GJA for inviting me. And I hope I'll not have to come and stand here next year and talk about we still looking for an access to information law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the Managing Director of the Ghanaian Times, Madam Carol Annan, and also acknowledge Nana Enimawia Fiakenten, Doctor, Lecturer, the University of Education, Faculty of Languages. We're grateful you found time to make it here. Ms. Ajua Yabua Fari, who is also a former editor of Ghanaian Times, as well as former president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Madam Tina Afaro Yabua, editor of The Spectator. Joe Bedu Ansa, former member of Parliament, a journalist as well, and Dr. Kweku Roxen, teacher of all journalists. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, We are drawing close now. All the questions have been asked. Is Parliament in a dilemma, yes or no? So at this point, I'll call on the Minority Leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu. I'm sure it's a question that I'll ask him, and I'll ask the Deputy Majority Leader and ask the Minister of Information as well. It's Parliament in the dilemma. Please show him some love. Put your hands together for him.
The chairman of today's ceremony and chairman of the National Media Commission, our senior colleague Appington, Minister for Information, the Honorable Mustafa Ahmed, Excellency Hannah of the EU, and the representative of UNESCO, our respected Reverend and head of the School of Communications Studies, Dr. Audrey, and my colleague, Member of Parliament and Deputy Majority Leader. Let me recognize the two other Deputy Ministers for Information present and our colleague, Honorable Kojo Pong Nkrumah. We're wondering why Honorable Mustafa came with a male-dominated deputy team. And then to recognize all other giants of the media industry, MD Graphic, MD Ghanaian Times, very distinguished practitioners of the media landscape of our country, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press. First of all is to make an observation which I believe I would lay squarely on the table of the person I'm acknowledging now, the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afrem Moni. Let me congratulate and commend you for the leadership that you are providing, except to add that my office was yet to be in receipt of your invitation for this program officially. I should protest so that tomorrow we are not blamed for non-representation or not being adequately represented when we are not adequately informed. I only got here, I won't say by accident, but because I relate to the majority because you expected Parliament to answer the questions. Fortunately, Parliament is the composition of the majority and the minority. So I've come as a show of respect to the journalists of our country and to the GJA and to be part of the attempt to answer the questions. Your theme for today, Critical Minds for Critical Times, Media's Role in Advancing Peaceful, Just, and Inclusive Society. That is the US Global Theme. My own understanding of this theme of Critical Minds for Critical Times is to call on the Ghanaian media, led by you, Afrem Moni, to be innovative in what you do. Critical Minds for Critical Times. And that the Ghanaian media must position itself to respond to contemporary challenges and contemporary storms that can undermine the progress of your work. Undoubtedly, the media have played its role in our democratic journey and its evolution and its deepening, and we should commend you for the phenomenal contribution to the building of a just and inclusive society, even though we are not at a perfect society yet. But Mr. Chairman, permit me today to make an attempt to reword your topic, even though it lies within your mandate. And that is akin to my duty as a member of Parliament. That is why even the Freedom of Information Bill is subject to parliamentary scrutiny. So in scrutinizing your theme, Ghana still in search of right to information law and the broadcasting law, is Parliament in a dilemma? If I had my own way, I would substitute it for Ghana in the process of passing twin legislations of right to information and right to broadcasting bill, and they would be enacted to law. Therefore, Ghana is not in search of it. Neither is Parliament in a dilemma. We are just on the road and we are searching and surfing very closely towards the passage of the twin bills of Right to Information Bill and the Broadcaster Bill. One can understand your ambivalence and your disappointment both in the executive and in Parliament, but be assured of our commitment to pass into law these two important legislation. So as I discuss this subject, I intend to deal with them on independent basis. My first comment will be on the Broadcaster Bill, which is easier to deal with for my purpose, after which I will conclude on the Right to Information Bill and then profess some suggestions to getting it. So, Honorable Chairman, if you permitted me, the topic for Ghana is Ghana still in search, will now be Ghana in the...